I guarantee you, if you stay till the end of this video, you will learn how to build capacity, how to expand your capacity for massive destiny breakthrough. You see, we live in a society where a lot of people desire incredible breakthroughs and massive success in their careers, in their businesses, in their finances, and in all that God has called them to do, but they miss out on some critical elements and ingredients that determines that massive breakthrough in what they are looking for. I strongly believe that every human being on earth, including you, has the ability, is destined to succeed at the highest level. Everybody. But however, not everybody gets to succeed. What is the difference? There are many differences. If you have been following this channel or you are part of this community, you know that I do a lot of research and studies and a lot on analysis why the elite performers perform the way they perform and why the masses and the average people perform and produce the kind of results that they produce. And I'm about to share with you one of those secrets, one of those discoveries that I started researching and practicing what I'm about to share with you in the last 10 years or so. So if you understand this, I guarantee you, if you understand this and take the four elements that I will share with you, you will literally change the rest of your life. Imagine living life in a way that you are so certain that you will become very, very successful as far as success is concerned, as per your definition of success. You can live life with that certainty, even though we live in that uncertain environment. But the future is uncertain, but you can prepare yourself, you can train yourself for that uncertain future, and that future will have no other option than to give you the success that you deserve. And this future doesn't mean that the next 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. That future can be next week. It can be next month. It can be next 12 months. You need to pay your price. How to expand your capacity for massive destiny breakthrough. And I will talk about this hidden law that if you practice, your life will never remain the same. You see, when you put pressure on a thing, the true content of that thing will be revealed. If you want to see the true content of anybody, of any situation, of anything, you need to put pressure on that thing. I will reveal to you four frameworks that you can use to expand capacity from today to experience massive destiny breakthrough. Before I talk about these elements in this framework, let me lay the foundation about this hidden law of pressure in building capacity for massive destiny breakthrough. The first point I want to make is that, you see, pressure exposes character. Pressure exposes character. I wrote here that just like when you squeeze a sponge, right? You see, growing up, one of my house chores that I used to do as the underboy in the house was that I used to clean dishes, right? I was the one cleaning dishes. I was the one cleaning the house. So I have a lot of experience in squeezing, sponge and squeezing the rag, if you may say so, for those who are, in back home in Africa. So you see, pressure exposes character. Just like when you squeeze a sponge, it reveals what is inside that sponge. If it is clean water, if it is dirty water, that is what the sponge will reveal when you squeeze it, right? So pressure reveals your true nature. Pressure reveals your true nature. It can either be strength or weakness, it can either be resilience or fragility. But pressure will reveal who you truly are. Number 2 point is that growth requires resistance. This sounds funny, but this is true. If you will grow, you need to experience resistance. Anybody who is not experiencing any form of resistance in any area of your life, you will never grow. Why? Because human beings without resistance will stay in their comfort zone for years. So God has orchestrated this life in a way that situations and life's difficulties will come your way because God knows that as far as the human nature is concerned, we can only grow when we experience resistance, right? Therefore, without pressure, hear me very well, without pressure, there is no refinement. If you are not going through pressure, you are not being refined as a person. Your mind is not being refined. Your character, your attitude, your skills are not being refined. You see, diamonds form under immense heat. Therefore, true leaders, true professionals, True entrepreneurs, true disruptors, true change makers emerge through adversity and not comfort. Let me say it again. True disruptors, the people that will change their lives and literally change their destiny, do not emerge from the place of comfort. They emerge from the place of adversity, from the place of pressure. You see, one thing I've learned in life, hear this, listen carefully. One thing I have learned in life is that excuses collapse under pressure. Excuses will collapse under pressure. You see, you can give yourself so many excuses in life and you can get away with it. The day a challenge will come your way that will put some pressure on you, I guarantee you, I guarantee you that pressure will collapse the excuse. Let me give you an example. When we were in school, right? In the early part of the term, nobody reads at night. I'm sure you have been there. Nobody reads at night. You know, we all watch movies and all of that. It feels so difficult to study in the night. But when we are close to the term exams, the pressure from the examination collapse the excuse that I cannot study in the night. You see that? So pressure will collapse your excuse. Let me tell you something. Those excuses you have been giving yourself for so long, a challenge will come. Pressure will come in your life that will collapse that excuse and you will rise to your true self and to your true manifestation, right? So when pressure comes your way and you easily give up, you see, it is not because of the situation, it is because your foundation is weak. For example, two people can go through similar challenges. Another person will emerge out of that challenge and succeed. Another person will give up and get into depression. What happened is that the situation, the person who gave up and went into depression, is that the situation revealed that the foundation of that person was weak. Situations will reveal the quality of your foundation. In the midst of storms, storms reveal the quality of the foundation of every house, every building, and the quality of the material that was used to build that particular house. Therefore, I wrote here that legends are not made in ease. Legends are not made in the place of comfort. Those who push through pressure become unshakable forces. Let me tell you something. If you want to become unshakable in your industry, you want to become unshakable as far as this life is concerned, when you're going through any form of pressure, build strength, build capacity, push through that pressure. Anytime you give up on pressure and allow pressure to define you, you are literally pushing yourself away from becoming that unshakable force in the future. But when you go through pressure now, you are preparing yourself to become that unshakable force in destiny and in that which God has called you to do. In other words, use whatever you're going through right now to prepare yourself for greater battles ahead. Because legends are the people who win the great battles that comes their way. Another point I said here is that small strength will not sustain big dreams. Now, this is one of the biggest difficulties that I have seen in the human race. I have been in this human capacity building for a while, for over a decade, and coaching and consulting and training and speaking, and I have seen things. One of the things I have seen is people with small strength seeking to sustain big dreams. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Small strength does not sustain big dreams. If pressure makes you to quit, your capacity is not enough. If pressure, whatever kind of pressure, if pressure causes you to quit in at anything in life, career, business, anything, then your capacity is not enough. You need to take responsibility and expand your capacity, expand your strength, because you will need it for greater manifestation. You see, as a believer, one thing I've come to learn is that faith and pressure coexist. Faith and difficulties coexist. You see, pressure will prove your faith. See, there are people who say that they have faith, they believe in God, they trust God. And many people say this during seasons when everything is fine, everything is cool, life is going on well. But True faith, true trust in God is revealed in your seasons of highest pressures. But pressure and faith coexist. If you will go through the season of pressure, you need to be a person of faith. See, if your belief in God, if your trust in God wavers under trials and difficulties, it was not faith that you had convenience. You see, there are many believers who think that they have faith because everything in their life is convenient at the moment, but true pressure and trials will reveal truly if they have faith. If you are listening to this and you have gone through the most toughest seasons in your life, you will understand what I'm talking about, right? So, real faith thrives in storms. Real faith thrives in pressure, in difficulties, in challenging circumstances that your human capabilities cannot help you. And if in that season you stand, you trust, you wait, and you have the assurance that God got you, then that is faith coexisting in that season of pressure. And last point, if I share the four elements in this framework that will change your life, and I'm sure you're already being blessed and you're being challenged already. If you have learned something so far, please leave a comment. The last point, this is still my introduction, right? Before I talk about the elements that you will need, and then this video is done. Now, the last point is one thing I've learned is that pressure will clarify your purpose. Oh, I can beg to say that. You see, many people confuse purpose, but I can tell you that if you ask me list top three things that bring clarity to purpose, I will list pressure. I will list challenges. Pressure will clarify your purpose. You see, there are many people right now who claim that, oh, I'm a man of purpose, I've discovered purpose, I'm living my purpose. Wait, let pressure come in, let challenges hit. At that moment, you see true people who have discovered their purpose. Pressure in life will clarify your purpose. For example, I said, when squeezed, when you are squeezed by pressure, distractions will fall away and then your priorities will be sharpened. So those who endure emerge with greater focus, drive, and direction towards their purpose after a season of pressure. Now, after all this extensive foundation and these key points, which I felt that they were important for me to share with you so that you understand how this is critical for your manifestation and breakthrough, let me now share with you, the frameworks that you can use to expand capacity using pressure. So I laid this foundation so you could see that your pressure, your difficulties, your challenges are a gift for your destiny breakthrough manifestation. Now, four elements that will help you to expand capacity using the hidden law of pressure. Number one is what I call the compression expansion principle. The compression expansion principle. Now, see, these are things that I document them, I create them for myself and for my clients, and I'm sharing them with you. These are things that some people get to pay a lot of money to get access to. Sometimes I share things that you will not find on Google, right? Because these things are coming from the place of experience, studies, research, analysis, deep thinking, and so on. I can clearly tell you the things that you will not really find them on Google, like some of these frameworks that I share with you, because they're from the place of, genuine studies and experience, analysis, and, put them to practice myself. So the first element in this framework on expanding your capacity using pressure is what I call the compression expansion principle. The compression expansion principle. Stay with me, I'll explain. Oh, I also call this the law of strategic suffering. Now, many people don't like the word suffering, but you're going to see how it's a blessing, right? If you have the right mindset and the right revelation around this, right? The law of strategic suffering or the compression expansion principle. You see, with this principle, pressure is not the enemy. You see pressure as not your enemy, but you see it as a force that you can use for your expansion. In other words, you understand that the greater the compression that you go through, the greater the expansion. The greater the pressure, the greater the expansion. But this can only happen when you know how to manage it correctly. Because going through a season of suffering or difficulty, it breaks some people, but some people use it to emerge to their highest manifestation and their highest self. You see, that's why I call it the law of strategic suffering. Knowing how to manage that season of difficulty and suffering for your good and for your destiny manifestation. And there are phases that you go through, in this compression expansion principle. Number one is what I call the compression phase. This is the first phase that everybody goes through, the compression phase. This is where you experience discomfort and resistance. This is the testing ground. When something happens to you, this is the first phase that we all go through. You go through this testing ground. This is when pressure is applied, the first reaction that many of us have is to run, is to resist, right? So the first reaction is resistance when we go through a situation that brings a lot of pressure into our lives. Now, in this case, weak individuals retreat. Weak people run in this first phase. When pressure appears, weak people resist and they run. Meanwhile, high performers lean in. High performers take a deeper look beyond the situation and the circumstance. After this compression phase, the second phase is the absorption phase. The absorption phase. Now, this is where you are reframing and adapting. I call it the reframing and adaptation phase. Let me explain. In this phase, high performers, like you and I, high performers, instead of escaping, instead of running, instead of resisting the pressure, what do? We learn to absorb the pressure, not absorbing it for it to define us. Listen carefully. We learn to absorb the pressure and we reframe that pressure as fuel, as a catalyst for growth. So in this case, what do? You are identifying the lessons that the pressure is teaching you. You are identifying the mistakes that you can improve upon and manifest your life in a better way. Now, after the absorption phase, I hope you're writing this down, you now experience what I call the expansion phase. Now, this is where breakthrough happens. And very few people reaches the expansion phase or the breakthrough phase. In the earlier part of my life, when I was documenting this and analyzing this, I saw how in the first part of my life, I used to mess up my life so far when challenges come and pressure comes. But now with this revelation, I understand that when I go through pressure, when I go through a difficult season, I understand that when that season comes, the first thing that happens is that I experience discomfort and compression, and my human nature tries to resist and run away from that pressure. But with the right knowledge and understanding and wisdom, I go through phase two, which is the absorption phase, where I begin to reframe and adapt my mindset and attitude and learning to make the best out of this so that I can enter phase three, which is the expansion phase, the breakthrough phase. What does this mean? It means that, you see, in this particular phase, you are building resilience to go through that pressure. You are transforming the pressure into a season of exponential capacity, into a season of learning and application, so that you can begin to enable massive breakthroughs that others cannot experience or that others are not prepared for. This is what separates the elite performers from the average people and from the masses. Right? So next time you're going through a difficult season or that pressure-filled season, have this in mind. In the first phase, you're going to resist, you're going to cry, maybe you're going to face discomfort. It happens to everybody. Don't kill yourself, don't blame yourself. But with this knowledge now, go through to phase two, which is the absorption phase, the learning phase, the adaptation phase, the reframing phase. And after that, you now go through the expansion phase or the breakthrough phase, where you make good use of the pressure season. Right? So number two, the second element in this framework is the adaptive capacity model. Now, these are different elements in this framework that you can pick one and begin to use. But document all that I'm sharing with you. Then you pick the best one that fits your personality, fits your attitude, fits your mission, fits your purpose, fits where you're going to. Right? You must not practice all, but you can document all of them and keep them in your toolbox, in your life toolbox, and you can begin to use them based on the season that you're going through. I have many of these frameworks and lessons that I have documented them in my journal, in my phone, and everywhere. When I'm going through a season or I want to achieve something, I go through my toolbox. I begin to look at which strategy do I use, right? So these are just different elements that you can pick one or two and run them in your life. Now, the second element or second framework I want you to learn on how to use pressure to build capacity for destiny manifestation is what I've could name the adaptive capacity model. I call it the ACM method, the adaptive capacity model. Now, you see, most people, I have been there, you have been there sometimes, or maybe you are there right now. Most people break under pressure. because they lack what I call the layers of adaptive capacity. I'll share with you the 5 layers of adaptive capacity. Follow me carefully. But most people break, this is my discovery. Most people break under pressure because they lack these layers of adaptive capacity. You see, true expansion comes from mastering, you see, each level of these layers. Let me explain. Layer number one is what you can call the psychological resilience. The first layer in this adaptive capacity model is the psychological resilience. What does that mean? It means that you have trained yourself in the place of having mental toughness. You have trained yourself, through controlled adversity. And of course, sometimes you put yourself through intentional hardship to build, the right psychological resilience or mental toughness. For example, sometimes I like to run, and when I run and I'm tired and I'm breathing, at that time, I challenge myself to run some more, because running helps to build your psychological resilience or your mental toughness. I also like to do push ups. Sometimes when I'm doing push ups between 1 to 30, I am not feeling the pains that much. But when the pains are so much, I try to do some more push ups, because through that, when I feel like giving up and I keep on doing, I am building my mental toughness by using what I call the intentional hardship framework. So this is where I intentionally put myself through a hard process so that I can train my ability to, have the right mental toughness, so that when life challenges comes my way, I have the right psychological resilience or the right mental toughness to go through. Right. So that's the first layer in this adaptive capacity model. The second layer is what I call the emotional equilibrium. Follow me carefully. The emotional equilibrium. Now, what does this mean? This means that you are developing your emotional mastery to operate under duress without panic and without regression. Now, it takes training. This way, emotional intelligence coming. Many people get into depression, get into difficult seasons, and they do not get out quickly because they lack the emotional equilibrium. So you need to train yourself, develop the emotional mastery, emotional intelligence to operate under duress without panicking and without running, without giving up, without regression. This is one of the best things that can happen to you and I, where we have so developed our emotions, our mastery, emotional mastery, in a way that when we are going through pressure, we don't panic, we don't regress, but we discover and spot the ways out of this situation. This is very critical for every entrepreneur, and every leader. Now, the third layer in this process is cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing. Now, this is where you train yourself, train your brain, or you begin to rewire your brain to view pressure as an amplifier rather than an obstacle. Now, this is very important. In cognitive reframing, you train your brain, you rewire your brain, because there are two types of people. There are people who see pressure and hardship as an obstacle and as the worst thing that can happen to them. Now, the elite performers, the high performers, the peak performers, they have rewired their brain that anytime pressure comes, anytime there's a difficult circumstance, they are like, oh, how is this circumstance going to amplify my success? Right? So what am I going to learn from this circumstance? How am I going to become a better person outside of this circumstance? How am I going to innovate and build a better product, a better service from this circumstance? The fourth layer is what I call strategic agility. Strategic agility. We're still talking about, the adaptive capacity model under the second framework on how to use pressure to expand your capacity for destiny breakthrough. Now, strategic agility is where you train yourself to shift your focus from reaction to a calculated response under pressure. You see, there are people that, well, if they receive bad news right now, there are people that react to the bad news, and there are people that have trained themselves to, you know, have a calculated response under pressure. For some people, when they receive any news that is not good, they have so trained themselves that they're going to sit quiet and think through. Think through. They're not going to say anything. They're going to say, okay, wait, I have heard, wait, 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 wait. So that they can, engineer or become the architect of a well calculated response under that pressure. You must not take so long to think. It could be a few seconds, a few minutes, a few days, depending on the kind of pressure you're in. But the goal here is that you practice strategic agility. You shift your focus from reacting when you receive news about any form of pressure, and you begin to create a calculated response under that particular pressure. And then the fifth layer, one of my favorites, is that, but we're talking about the 5 layers in this element, is execution under fire. Execution under fire. This is one of the major lessons that you see I learned by researching and watching documentaries about drug cartel lords. You see, I have a book. You can get the book on Amazon, Business Lessons from Drug Cartel Lords. You see, they are very good at executing under fire, right? Executing under fire. This is where you train yourself to operate at peak performance even in chaos. You train yourself to operate at a very high level, even in the midst of chaos and things seem to be going wrong. You are executing, you are operating, you are moving forward. The momentum is high. Whatever happens, you are moving forward. If you're a believer, one place that this happened, this execution under fire happened was when you see when Moses and the Israelites, when they left Egypt and they were before the Red Sea. In that moment, they were in a critical moment of chaos. Before them was the Red Sea, and behind them was Pharaoh and the army coming to get them back into bondage. So in the middle, they were like in the most chaotic moment in their journey to the promised land. And like many people, we get to face those moments where behind us is bondage and difficulty, ahead of us is the promised land. But you need to understand how to execute under fire, how to keep moving forward, keep the momentum going no matter what is going through. Now, this video is getting too long, and there are 2 other frameworks I need to share with you, but I will not share it right now. I'll teach this deeply in my master classes with those in my community. If you're interested, please check the link in this video and you'll find how to join the community so that you can receive the Zoom link to be part of the teaching. And I'll talk about the pressure innovation nexus, and then I will talk about the existential purpose alignment framework. But I can tell you that from this teaching, from this session, you see how you can tap into pressure to expand your capacity for massive destiny breakthrough. So from today, with what I've taught so far, use pressure as a gift, and you will see how your life would never ever remain the same. Please like, comment, share, and please subscribe, and see you in the community for those who will join us. God bless you. Keep building.